let's talk about some buckets of what causes hair loss in terms of first lifestyle. I think that's really, really important because people need to have a foundation, of a healthy lifestyle before they even probably start the process. Otherwise, it's going to be a difficult one. And then looking at pharmaceuticals, I saw a patient today who had been on finasteride with serious complications and libido issues and testosterone issues. It was very sad. A young man of 32 years old, and it was, I was sitting there with my health coach and we are looking, and he was absolutely distraught after going through this. So it's real, and it happened today. And then looking at any supplementation. So let's start with lifestyle, Dr. Allen, and tell us what's the most important things to
Sure.
help with hair health.
Well, I think, I became encouraged to look at scalp health many, many years ago, as I learned that many patients were dealing with some kind of inflammation or other dysregulation right at the level of the scalp. And this, in my early years, I was doing hair transplant surgery. I want the surgery to heal well. I want the follicles to grow well. And what I noticed is that patients that had inflammation of the scalp were not such great candidates for hair transplantation and did not get such a great response from medical treatments. So, if we talk about scalp health first as kind of like the soil for the plants, if there's excessive inflammation, if there
Mm.
is, let's say, an overproduction of oil and exfoliation and not a cleansing of those areas, you could get a disruption in the microbiome of the skin of the scalp. And when that happens, it's very clear an overgrowth of fungus, specifically Malassezia, is the one that most commonly causes seborrheic dermatitis. And dermatitis is inflammation of the skin. Seborrhea is this excessive oil production. And so, if that's all happening together, it's a fertile ground for this microbiome overgrowth, and things get dysregulated, inflammation occurs. You could get scaling of the skin, you could get pain, you could get sores, and worst case scenario, even beyond that, infection, folliculitis, and so forth. So making sure the scalp health is on point is probably one of the primary things that we do. And in fact, at the clinic, it's such an important piece of the puzzle that I have an entire department of folks designed to help keep the scalp health on point. And for those who are dysregulated or having trouble with their scalp hygiene, sometimes it's as simple as just changing the frequency of their shampooing. Maybe they're doing it too often or too little. And
Mm.
just like skincare needs to be tailored to the specific skin chemistry and the age of the client, same is true with scalp health. And so there are therapeutic interventions that we could do in the office to exfoliate the scalp, to cleanse it, to address seborrhea, to address inflammation, because excessive inflammation and even autoimmune conditions can occur that really destroy the hair follicle.
Mm.
And there's a lot of
I've got,
ways that we can mitigate
yeah.
that.
I've got questions here because I think this is important. This is important of lifestyle. A lot of my audience is, well versed in nutrition and, stress management and exercise and that. But, a lot of my patients use hair and shoulders or neck and shoulders or head and shoulders. And you look at the back of this thing and all the toxicity in there, and they say, well, I've got this cradle cap, I've got this dandruff, I use it, it goes away. And then I say, listen, bring the bottle, let's have a look at it. So let's talk about shampoos, maybe conditioners, whether what they should be using, what they shouldn't be using, because I can
Yeah.
guarantee you a lot of my ladies out there, and 80% of my patients are females, are using the wrong products and then destroying their hair, or even the men not sure what they're using to help the health of
Yeah.
their hair from a lifestyle perspective.
Sure. So the first thing is if your scalp is itchy, flaky, burning, irritated, tender to the touch, or any of these items, any kind of symptom, please listen to your scalp. It's trying to tell you something, right? I mean, if you had a big rash on your arm that was itchy, tender, flaky, irritated, you would go see a dermatologist about that. Well, you need a scalp specialist if that's happening. I mean, a little bit of head and shoulders might be helpful because it does impact the overgrowth of that fungus that we talked about. It's specifically designed to target Malassezia, and I happen to be very close with some of the PhDs who worked on that with Procter and Gamble. In fact, Head and Shoulders is such a popular shampoo. It's the most popular shampoo in the world. They sell 1,000 bottles a minute. It's unbelievable. But what that tells us is that there's a lot of folks out there with unhealthy scalp. And there's also a lot of myths. Everybody's, if you tell somebody, oh, I wash my hair every other day, half the people will say that's too much. Half the people will say that's too little.
Okay.
So you have to tailor it specifically to the situation, just like you would never use a bar of soap on your face. You have to use the right cleanser and conditioners for your scalp. So folks that have curly afro textured hair are going to have a different methodology and different product selection that and different modes of cleaning the scalp than someone who has straighter, thinner, finer Eastern European hair. And so there's two different ends of that spectrum. And that's why when you go to the supermarket, there's thousands of bottles of shampoos and conditioners, from lightweight conditioners to the heavy, thick masks. And sometimes, this needs to be tailored and used seasonally, because obviously your environment can change. So, I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. Maybe we could spend a whole day just talking about what's the correct shampoo regimen for one person, and it will be wrong for the next person. So we do virtual consultations for that.